All right, thank you for joining us. So just a quick note, I am wearing a mask. We're at our offices right now at Valley Water, so definitely want to be safe. My name is Albert Lay. I'm with the Office of Communications. So before we start tonight, we'll be starting to go over the Zoom platform just a little bit here. I'm gonna put some slides in front of you, and they're already showing. Just give me 1 second here. I gotta make sure the right things are showing. All right, so some of you may be familiar with Zoom, but for those who are not, this platform is a way for us to connect with you all in the community. You're probably hearing me right now if your audio settings are connected to computer audio. Now, some of us might have issues with our internet. If you do have issues with your internet, please go ahead and connect via phone. There's a number on the screen here, and the meeting ID is usually embedded as part of the website address. Now, we want to make this very interactive for you all. We want you to ask questions and be involved. So there's a couple of ways to do that on Zoom. The first is the Q&A portal. The Q&A portal is going to be on your toolbar at the bottom there. Go ahead and ask your question there. We do not recommend putting questions in the chat, although we will be asking you to just say hello in the chat later on. Questions tend to get buried pretty quickly in chat. If you wanted to, you can also ask your question verbally. Go ahead and raise your hand later on during our questions and answers segment. I will see a hand next to your name, and then I will enable your microphone. Once I enable your microphone, then you will unmute yourself to verbally ask your question. Now, if you are joining us by phone and want to ask your question verbally, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and then press *6 to unmute yourself. All right, I'm going to stop my screen share here. We're going to introduce some of our attendees tonight, our esteemed panelists. I'd like to introduce you to Chair Nai. I'm going to say this, I'm going to butcher it, sorry, Chair Hsueh, or Hsueh, close, I guess. She's from Valley Water's Board of Directors. Chair Hsueh is represents District 5, which includes Cupertino, Saratoga, and parts of San Jose, and also Santa Clara and Sunnyvale. Please welcome Chair Hsueh. Oh, you're on mute, Chair. Make sure the microphone's off on your device. Slight technical difficulties here. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, does that?
Great.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you, Albert. First of all, you pronounced my last name very well. Thank you. And to everyone, good evening, and welcome all of you to join us tonight. We thank you for your presence and participation for tonight's meeting. Although I normally prefer to meet with you in person, tonight's event is just part of our modified approach to help keep us all safe during this COVID-19 crisis, just like Albert Lee is wearing his mask, while still allowing us to stay connected. This webinar event is an opportunity for me as the director for District 5 to introduce our new CEO of Valley Water to this community and provide an update on current Valley Water issues. So with that, I'd like to welcome Valley Water's CEO, Mr. Rick Callender. Rick?
Thank you, Chair Hsueh. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I too would much rather be able to have the enjoyment of being able to meet people in person, shake their hands, but COVID has taken that away from us. But I think we'll have more opportunities hopefully in the near future, and hopefully I'll be able to have the opportunity to meet you in person. I know Albert said he's working out of the office, so you see that he has a mask on. I'm working out of my home office, so that's why I do not have a mask on. So wanted to make sure I clarified for all those that are out there. And so again, hello to everybody. I really do appreciate you being able to come, having an opportunity to hopefully talk about you. And I'd like to keep this hopefully informal, giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself, talk about where you're from when you do get the opportunity. If you do have a question, if you want to let us know in the chat where you're from and why you're here, please go ahead and do so. But you will have the opportunity to hopefully be able to come on screen and introduce yourself if you do have a question. Tonight, we're targeting targeting the communities of the District 5 area. Chair Hsueh did say she represents District 5, which she's elected from. And so that includes the communities of Saratoga, Cupertino. It adds in the balance of the Cupertino Union Elementary School District. And the remaining part of the district is Sunnyvale, south of Central Expressway, and southwestern San Jose. For many of you that know that southwestern area, it's a little piece of the Chappie Jones district, who's the council member for the city of San Jose. I want to go ahead and talk about some. First, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to share, and I want to take a little bit, talk a little bit about myself, and then we're going to dive into the projects. Some of you have seen, yes, obviously I'm the new CEO. I've been in this seat since July 13th. However, I'm not new to Valley Water. I've been at Valley Water for nearly 25 years. So I'm 24 in a little bit. I think I'll be rolling over to 25 just in a few months here. I started off in Valley Water in the Office of Government Relations. I had a chance and opportunity right before we're coming on to remind Chair Hsueh. She was a longtime employee also of Valley Water. She was on my original hiring panel, so she's part of the reason why I sit in this seat today, is because she was able to hire me on to work on a campaign that we're moving forward. At the time, it was called Clean Safe Creeks, and originally we called it the Comprehensive Flood Management Program, then turned into Clean Safe Creeks, and a few years later, as it did go on the ballot. And you'll be hearing me talk about Measure S today, and some of what that means for our community. So from those 25 years, how did I get to Valley Water? I'd worked prior to that. I worked for an organization called Economic and Social Opportunities, doing government relations for them. Prior to that, I worked for the mayor of San Jose at the time, Susan Hammer. She was a mentor. She unfortunately passed away recently. Prior to that, I worked for Ron Dellums, also another mentor of mine that passed away a few years ago. Many of you know Ron Dellums, who was the mayor of Oakland, longtime political leader, longtime civil rights leader, someone I was very proud to work for. Went to school, got my undergraduate degree from California State University, Chico State. So I studied industrial engineering and technology, emphasis in electronic and computer technology. Ultimately got a degree from law school, most recently Northwestern California School of Law, a member of the State Bar. And I'm also a local guy. Grew up in South San Jose. Went to Santa Teresa High School, Burnell Intermediate, as well as Blossom Valley, which is no longer a school, but it's in the Oco School District. So I've known this community. I'm part of this community, and glad to be part of the community. Now I'm going to start talking a little bit about some of our local projects and efforts that are underway that are in your community that I hope that you care about. Albert, maybe you can share the screen and we can list some of the projects that I'll be talking about. So tonight I'll be talking about the Saratoga Creek hazardous tree removal work. And these things I'm just going to touch on quickly. The Calabasas Creek Bank Rehabilitation Project, Anderson Dam seismic. You might have heard a lot about that one in the news. Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project. That's the area in the Rock Springs area specifically I'll be touching on. That's the area that flooded in 2017. So it's like the Rock Springs, the downtown San Jose area. And then I'll be talking about Measure S, which will renew Valley Water, safe, clean water, and natural flood protection program. So let me go ahead and jump into the Saratoga Creek hazardous tree removal work. So our staff began working on this effort in early August, and we were removing trees that pose a danger for people and property along Saratoga Creek between Prospect High School and Cox Avenue. This year's activities have concluded with 54 hazardous eucalyptus trees removed as part of the first phase of what's going to ultimately be a 3-year project. These trees are a fire and safety hazard due to their large size. And many of you know how the drought and the drought helped to basically bring some of our trees into disrepair. These trees are also suffering from that. This project's next phase will resume late next summer and will conclude with the final phase in the late summer of 2022. Let's go ahead and move over to Calabasas Creek Rehabilitation Project. And I think it's a pretty good picture of, you can tell why it needs some rehab. The project will repair and stabilize creek bank sections along Calabasas Creek and Cupertino between Miller Avenue and Bollinger Road that were damaged during the high water flows from the 2017 winter storms. Since this area is prone to bank erosion due to steep creek banks, these repairs will help to protect nearby homes and from damage, and will also improve water flow to help prevent flooding. Our staff is currently in the design phase for this project. And if you'd like more information on this project, just click on the links the staff has pasted into the chat box, or if you can visit our valleywater.org, you'd be able to have a chance to go to the project website. Let's move over to Anderson. And as you may be aware, Anderson Dam, the seismic retrofit project, is one of Valley Water's highest priorities. Just last week, we held a virtual public meeting. It was very well attended, very well ran, to inform the community on the upcoming activities related to Anderson Reservoir and the dewatering and tunnel construction project in compliance with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, as you may have heard of them, the Reservoir Drawdown Order. Actually, it was late last year where FERC basically ordered us to draw down the reservoir by starting October 1 of this year. So that dewatering starts on October 1, and a tunnel construction effort is expected to begin in 2021 with full completion of the Anderson Dam seismic retrofit project by 2031. Now, this larger project includes a complete replacement of the dam that will enable us to bring back full capacity to Anderson. And when full, it will enable us to supply enough drinking water to support almost 1 million people for a whole year. Now, this project will seismically retrofit Anderson Dam, ensuring that this community and many others will be safe from the impacts of a dam failure in the event of a major earthquake. So that's why our staff is working hard to move this project along as quickly as possible. I know many of people have expressed the concerns about what's the impacts to our water supply without Anderson in service. Well, what I do want you to know is that we do have an adequate supply of water for this year, and we'll continue to explore other options to maintain our supply into the future. We have a diverse water supply portfolio, which includes groundwater, imported water, both from state and local sources, as well as recycled water. We also have a ground bank, it's called the Semi-Tropic, that's in Kern County, which will allow us to serve the needs of 3.5 million people for 1 year. That's how much water we have banked over there. Staff continues to explore other sources of water that come from outside the county, and these efforts will all take into account the changes in the storage in Anderson Dam and Reservoir. And as some of you know, water from Anderson flows to Coyote Creek, which is another one of our highest priorities. And so I wanted to make sure I highlighted this project for myself. I don't live too far from the, so we can roll to Coyote Creek. I don't live far from the Rock Springs area, actually about 1.5 miles from the Rock Springs area. I was here in '94, unfortunately, when that area flooded, and I saw it again, with my own eyes in 1997. Those people are my neighbors. Those people are my friends. It was really tough to see some of how the flooding had occurred. But one of the portions, the good news is at the same time we're doing Anderson project, we're also moving ahead on the Coyote Creek flood protection project, which will help to protect the community that flooded from future flooding, similar to the levels of what they experienced in 2017. Now, to provide a level of flood protection while the dam is being reconstructed, the Coyote project has been divided into two different phases. The first phase includes the FERC compliance flood mitigation measures and is expected to be completed by the end of 2023. And when I'm saying the FERC compliance flood mitigation measures, that's to ensure that as why we are constructing the low flow tunnel and constructing Anderson Dam, that the folks along Coyote Creek will have flood protection. The remaining phase of the Coyote Creek flood protection project is expected to be completed by the end of 2025. And I can tell you, our staff has been hard working on project design and alternatives for this Coyote project, and we'll be reaching out to this community in the next few months to update everyone on the project's progress. I started by talking about how I live in this very community, and I've heard many of the comments and many of the sad stories about how devastating these floods were in 2017, and I fully understand, and I express great sorrow for those people. And I'm very sorry about what my community went through. It's unfortunate that some have had to deal with flooding and then a long legal process. And I truly hope that this process ends quickly and fairly. And I do want to let you know that Valley Water, our board, our staff, we're here to serve everybody in our community in Santa Clara County. Nobody is going to not get service from Valley Water, from our board or staff. So I do want to make sure that you understand that you do have my commitment. Now I'm going to move into Measure S, and I'd like to show you just a quick, little bit over a minute video on Measure S and a little bit about what it does, and I'll talk a little bit about Measure S. So Albert, if you can go ahead and run that video for me, please.
What is the Safe Clean Water and Natural Flood Protection Program? The Safe Clean Water and Natural Flood Protection Program was overwhelmingly approved by 74% of Santa Clara County voters in 2012. The The program identified 5 priorities developed in collaboration with thousands of residents and stakeholders. Priority A, a safe, reliable water supply. Building sustainable, locally controlled water supply projects that are resilient to emergencies, disasters, and droughts. Priority B, reduce toxins and contaminants in our waterways. Providing a safe and clean supply of water, ensuring our waterways are protected from toxins, contaminants, and pollution. Priority C, protect our water supply from earthquakes and natural disasters. Protecting our water supply, water quality, dams and flood protection channels from public emergencies, earthquakes, natural disasters, and climate change. Priority D, restore habitat and provide open space. Protecting our natural areas by working to restore habitats along creeks and the bay. Priority E, provide flood protection. Funding projects that protect our homes, schools, and businesses from the threat of floods. The program helps us care for waterways and provide flood protection to homes, schools, and businesses. As we contend with public emergencies, natural disasters, population growth, and uncertain future water supplies, we are exploring how to replace and renew the existing program to address these challenges.
Thank you, Albert. So that video actually describes the program so much better than I ever could. It talks about all the different priority areas of the program. But I do want to tell you that the board in July did vote to place this on the ballot. This is Measure S, and I say Measure S for safe, clean water. And so that will be in front of you, and hopefully you'll look at it favorably when you have the opportunity to look at it. If you have questions, if you want to get detailed information on safe, clean water, if you go to our website, safecleanwater.org, that will enable you to see the entire program, what it does, and break it down. There's a lot more information that's there. But Measure S, in the bottom line, would help to protect our residents and businesses from threats posed by climate change, such as droughts, wildfires, sea level rise. Measure S does not increase taxes. It simply renews the existing parcel tax that voters had approved in 2012 by about 74%. And one of the things that Measure S does is it takes dedicated work to keep our projects in tip-top shape and to keep our projects maintained. And so this measure proposes to continue to protect our families, our environments, our economy, provides for environmental justice for beyond the 15 years. So if you want to learn more about Measure S, please go ahead and visit safecleanwater.org. One of the things that we often hear about, and I'd have to be able to talk about it, and it's also included in Measure S, is the issue of homelessness. Measure S does provide for a different level and a different approach to homelessness and how do we deal with homelessness along our creekways than we have in past. In past, our programs were basically just provided for us to go in and clean up the homeless encampments and basically remove the people off of there, and then they would just come back and basically recamp. And so what Measure S does is it also includes not only the ability for us to provide the cleanout, but it also includes money for basically being able to hopefully permanently remove people off of the creekways and into a more stable environment. No, we will not be doing the social services, but we'll be able to fund other entities that will be able to provide those kind of humanitarian social services to get the folks out of the creek. So that's one of the things that Measure S does. And I do want to acknowledge that we've heard from many of you on the increases in homeless activity along all of the creeks in the valley and other waterways. And that includes Saratoga Creeks and others in the community I'm talking to right now. You know, this situation is definitely challenging for you, as it's challenging for us as well. And unfortunately, there is no easy fix. You know, several other agencies, including Valley Water, are working together on programs and efforts aimed at addressing the homeless crisis, including housing, social services, trash removal. And so it's those kind of things for us working together and collaboratively with other public agencies, other entities, other nonprofit entities, other non-governmental organizations that will be able to not only address homelessness, but address many of the issues that Valley Water is responsible for. And so what I want to do is I want to open up to questions from folks that are out there. I don't want to sit here and talk at you. This is not a lecture or class time, so I do want to open up and be able to have you ask questions of me or of the chair. Albert, do we have any?
All right, Rick, right now we are waiting to get some questions in. Looking at Facebook Live, same thing right now. I'm going to ask folks to feel free to jump on, to submit your questions via the Q&A portal. Again, that's up at the bottom of your screen on your toolbar. Alternatively, please go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to ask a verbal question as well.
And if you ask a verbal question, we'll be able to put you in to the panel, so you'll be able to show your screen if you like, and be able to ask any question, or just go ahead and type it in.
We have a question. I will see this. We have Ram. I'm going to enable your microphone. Go ahead, unmute yourself, Ram, and ask your question.
Hello, thank you for making this presentation and making us all available to meet. As Rick said that it'll be nice to meet in person, but we'll do that in the future. So I live in the Seven Springs community in Cupertino, and we have a large irrigation area. We have got about 20 meters here irrigating our landscaping here. We want to see when we can move to digital meters so that we can access our consumption and the water bill on a regular basis. During this COVID time, I called the Valley Water twice to get San Jose Water twice to get all our water consumption and the bills, but there was no response at all. So I don't know if Valley Water is the right place to ask this question, or this belongs more to San Jose Water Company.
Well, Ram, what I can tell you is there's an email, and hopefully if you saw that, the CEO at valleywater.org, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and send me an email, and okay. I'm going to make sure our team is working with you, and that we're going to help you to be able to get to the answers of what you need. I'm not sure who you've contacted. If you're looking for, it sounded, you had the sounds in the back, and I wasn't quite too sure what you said, but it sounded like you said you were looking for conservation support.
Is it conservation support by knowing our consumption, and we know where if there is a water leak somewhere, or where we should target,
So yeah. that could be one of our conservation programs, or it could be San Jose Water. But send me an email, CEO@valleywater.org. I promise you that I'd help you. We do have a robust conservation program that does come out and help to provide inspections. I'm not sure about your individual situation of what you're talking about, but I do promise you, send me an email, we will be right on it. The one thing I try to tell folks is I want to make sure that we have good customer service. So regardless, if it's not us, that we become a one-stop shop of helping you to get to what you need.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Just to add to that, I know our water conservation unit has a website called watersavings.org that check out as well. So I'll put that in the chat box.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I know the community, the Seven Spring in Cupertino. So if Ram, if you're talking about the public area within the Seven Spring development, I think there's a lot of opportunity that we or San Jose Water Company, in this case, within Cupertino, Valley Water and San Jose Water Company work very closely together on implementing the water conservation program. So so if particularly for this common area within the development, I think there's a lot of opportunity we can do a good job conserving water. So if you send an email to the CEO, we'll make sure that we'll move along with this question.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you for your question. I'm gonna move on to the next question here. So we have some questions in the Q&A portal. First question we have is from Ronald Horry. He asks, was the 2017 flood a worst case event, or could we have even worse floods?
Well, Ronald, that's actually a really good question. The 2017 flood in the Rock Springs area along Coyote Creek, as well as in the William Street area in the downtown, actually went into even further down than what I'm mentioning, was the flood of record for that area since we've had the dam. So that gave us basically the high water mark of where we are now basically building the Coyote Creek flood protection project to protect from that flood. The question of could it have been worse? Yes, that was not even probably what you could see as a worst case scenario floods. I think if you're looking at what's going on right now with climate change, that was a situation of where we had back-to-back atmospheric storms. I have, in my time here, and I'll look to Director Hsueh, she was here many years before me, I have never seen Anderson Dam. It started off at 40%. In January 1, it was at 40%. We saw back-to-back storms Anderson Dam, as it was designed to do, started to come over the spillway basically in less than a month. And so that is, so could it have been worse? The answer is yes. We try to design projects to what they call the 1% flood protection project. That the Coyote Creek, unfortunately, because of the way that it is in between an urban area, we cannot design it to that. It's cost prohibitive to build those kind of a project to the 1% flood protection. But the answer is yes, it could be worse. Yes, we can see other flooding here. Yes, this is exactly why we're trying to bring Measure S to the voters, because we do not have the capability or the financing to build all the projects that we need to provide adequate flood protection for this community right now. So the answer is yes, it could have been worse. Chair Hsueh, I don't know if there's anything you want to add on to that. You've got a lot of history in this community.
You said it very well. Actually, just in my years related to working on flood protection project, I have not seen anything like this either. However, as Rick mentioned, that in this climate change environment, that weather pattern is becoming more and more severe, and they could be drought for multiple years and then followed up with unprecedented storm events. So those are the things we're trying to planning for as much as we can. From the investment perspective, we're investing your money. We're investing people's money. The Valley Water, I mean, we don't have our own money. It's all money coming from the community. And we're trying to do our best to invest your money so that the most frequently occurred flooding can be prevented and the properties protected. But then it doesn't say that it's a 100% guarantee there will never be a flooding event or weather pattern that's worse than what we're designing for. So that's just the reality we're in.
All right, and I have a related question from Ram in the chat box about climate change. So with all the climate change going on, we are seeing extreme drought and extreme floods. What is Valley Water's plan to handle such wide variations?
Oh, that's actually an excellent question again. One of the things that we will be doing is we're actually going forward with not only it's a climate change action plan that we plan on going forward to our board with this year. That's one of the things that we're looking at. When I'll tie back in again to Measure S, you know, what are we doing going forward? What are the plans that we're doing going forward? Measure S contains of the very projects of what we're seeing that would protect us against climate change. For example, we have the South San Francisco Bay Shoreline Project, which we only have financing for phase 1 of the South San Francisco. Well, actually, barely. We have not all the money for phase 1. This will also include some dollars for that, but we have no money for phase 2. Phase 2 goes basically from the Palo Alto. That's actually phase 2 and 3, from the Palo Alto area all the way down to Alviso. So we have all of those communities. So we're talking about Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Santa Clara. So portions of those communities which do not have the benefit of having flood protection. And when you see sea level rise, those are one of the things that you see. Also, but when you see sea level rise, you also see inland flooding that will occur as a result of sea level rise. So one of the things that we're doing is, one, you have things like Measure S, and two, you have projects that we're looking at, not only water supply projects such as Pacheco, but Measure S also includes stormwater capture. So we can basically be able to look at how can we in the future be able to look at things such as stormwater capture to provide for things such as severe drought. So that we're not so reliant on imported water as we are right now. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. Recycled water, it's another thing that we're looking at. So yes, we are planning for climate change. Yes, we're trying to address the needs of our community for climate change. And this is something that has not been lost on our elected board. I can tell you we have good leadership in that area, and we will be putting a plan forward to not only to address it now, but also into the future.
And I have a related question. I have two questions from Christina through our Q&A portal. So Christina asks, is climate change incorporated in the new measure? And she also asks, why is Valley Water putting forth this measure now? It may be a related question and answer.
All right, yeah, those relate. So in terms of why we're, Albert can put that one back, or actually I can go to the, I didn't see the second one. why are we doing it now? The way that I've described this to folks is when I was here and when I first came to Valley Water in 1996 and we put together the Clean Safe Creeks program, that was the first time that we put that type of program together. When we put that program together, there were basically holes and gaps that needed to be done. When we came back out in 2012 with the Safe Clean Water program, but we didn't know all the things we know now. So basically what we're driving is what I describe as a broken car. You know your car is broken, you know your car is not gonna get to where you need to go. You know that in order to build the projects that you need, you don't have the funding. So what happened is the folks on Coyote Creek, but we basically had just enough funding to start a study in order to move on that. When those folks saw the worst flooding that they've seen in since 1994, it was actually above what they saw in 1994. The board made a decision to move the dollars from Upper Penitencia, that's another project, to basically be able to fund the Coyote Creek project. So basically I can describe it, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Additionally, there's additional environmental and regulatory dollars that we did not plan for at the time. One of the things that when we went out in 2012 is there's something called basically endowments that are attached to projects. Those endowments and projects did not exist at the time. The endowments exist now, and we did not plan, nor did we budget for endowments. So what this does is this fixes the broken car that we have, this updates what the needs that we have, and then it also provides for operations and maintenance. And the reason why I talk about the operations and maintenance is I'm going to point again to the Alviso community. We have the Lower Berryessa project. When those folks, for those of you that lived out here in the 80s, and you saw the dangerous flooding that occurred in 1982, I think it was, or 84, in the Alviso, 82 in the Alviso area. I lived out here for that. I remember seeing that. That was devastating. Well, the Valley Water Board at that time, they built the project, they protected that community. Those people are back in the floodplain. The people going down from, actually I'm not sure, it's the Lower Guadalupe area, but they're back in the floodplain because we did not have the dollars to properly to maintain that. We can build the projects, but we've also got to maintain the projects. That's just good business sense, and that's what the taxpayers and I think the residents expect. They don't want us to say, oh, we're building it, and everyone wants to be out the floodplain, but we got to do both, build it and maintain it. So what this does and why now is we're no longer going to be driving the broken car. We're trying to say we want to fix the broken car that we're all living in together. I live in this community. I will be voting for it. I will be taxing my own house for this because I believe in it. It's not because I work here. It's because this is for the community. The second part of the question was, I didn't get the second part. Oh, there it goes. Is climate change incorporated into the new measure? I think I've addressed that. The answer is yes, yes, and yes.
All right, great. Moving on to our next question here through our Q&A portal. This is from RNC Quartet. I think it may be a group of four watching this Zoom feed. So their question is Valley Water active in any water recycling reuse programs using potable water from irrigation doesn't seem prudent in the area, chronic drought with the parentheses we live in. Countries like Israel and South Africa seem to be way ahead of us.
I'm going to start on the second part of the commentary where you're saying countries like Israel and South Africa seem to be way ahead of us. You're absolutely correct. If you go to Israel and you see the kind of things they've done in Israel and in South Africa, they are indeed way ahead of us. One of the things that we have built is an advanced water purification center, which purifies 8 million gallons per day of water. We're in the process right now. In fact, I've been in meetings just this week where we're negotiating with the city of San Jose to expand that. The board has voted to also expand advanced purified water for Palo Alto and the Mountain View area. So those are some of the things that we're doing. When you're talking about using potable water for irrigation doesn't seem prudent, I also believe that that's an accurate assertion as well. One of the things I think that you're going to be seeing in the coming years is right now, when you see the purple pipes mean recycled water. I think eventually, and it's probably not too far away, we have the ability right now, if you see how we're treating this advanced purified water in our water recycling center, you'll see it's purified to basically better standards than that of drinking water. I believe we're headed towards the day very, very soon here. We're going to see basically no longer purple pipes. It's just going to be silver pipes. We will probably be able to have direct potable, be able to utilize the water from the advanced purification and put it at the bottom of our reservoir or to use it for recharge. I don't think those days are too far away at all. purely because of climate change, purely because of what we've lived in. Yes, we're going to catch up to countries like Israel and South Africa. I think we've just got to continue to keep our foot on the gas pedal and be able to get there. And I'm happy to be able to lead an organization that's one of the leading organizations in the state and having this very conversation.
All right, thank you, Rick. And I just want to plug our tour program real quickly as well. Our
Thank you, Albert.
for water recycle reuse is Pure Water for You, PURE, number 4U.org. You can sign up for a virtual tour to see what Valley Water is working on in terms of water reuse.
And then hopefully when we're out of COVID, you'll be able to come and visit our plants in real life. We used to be able to do that, but right now, obviously, we can't have people inside the plants.
All right, let's move on.
Can I jump in just a couple of a short comment that with these good questions that on climate change, on water supply. I think recycled water, as Mr. Callender just answered, is the most important thing that's connecting these issues together for us. We see recycled water as drought-proof water, and then to sustain Santa Clara County's water supply for the future, as recycled water or purified water, which is purify the recycled water to meet the drinking water standard, is one of the most critical and high priority thing for this organization to be engaging. And we've already invested lots of money, lots of expertise into recycled and purified water, and going the direction that for the future, this will be part of the water supply portfolio for sustainability.
All right, thank you, Chair. I think also we recently, this past December, signed a partnership with the city of Palo Alto and Mountain View on some expanding our water reuse operations as well. All right, moving on to the next question here. This is coming from Eileen McLaughlin. The list of district projects did not include Sunnyvale East and West Channel. That project is approved, but it has been a very long time since the public has received an update. Can such a public presentation be arranged?
Ms. McLaughlin, very good question. No, I didn't talk about that one. I'll probably be talking about that one and one of the future ones, but just for everyone else, the Sunnyvale East and West project is another project that is contained in Measure S. It upgrades about 6.4 miles of the existing Sunnyvale East Channel, provides 1% flood protection that I mentioned earlier for about 1,618 parcels and about 3 miles of existing West Channel. The answer to that is I've got the staff on here that does our community outreach. I'm going to ask them to go ahead and do that. I think that's good. If the community wants to hear about our projects, we should go ahead and do Zoom meetings. Are easy to do to provide a project update. Yes, we will be doing that.
All right, great, thank you. And moving on to our next question here. This is going to be from Shani New. Shani asks, in downtown San Jose, Boston Properties proposes a project with 0 setback from the Guadalupe River, defying protections by the Habitat Agency and the city's own policy. With increasing storm intensities, what are the risks of such development, and what can Valley Water do about this plan and others that may follow if approved, or this is approved?
All right, there's a lot stacked in there, but I definitely want to address it. I'm not familiar with the property that you are providing for, but I can tell you that our staff will be making comments on property that is, as you've described, if it's that close to the Guadalupe River. We do have a community projects and review unit. They will be making some comments on this. I can tell you if it's as you've described, we will have some very intense and very disconcerting comments that we would be providing as it relates to this. So in terms of what we do, we do try to address these. The one thing that we don't like is we don't like to see people build right up abutting the river, right into the right up into our rivers. They're basically at risk, and these are things that we don't like to see. We often make comments on all these projects throughout the valley. However, the sad part is we do not have any land use authority. We cannot vote on these projects. We cannot basically stop the projects, but what we can do is comment on the projects. One of the things that we have done is we do have meetings with the cities, and we do talk about this very issue. I know if you've been to, I know you've been to our meetings, Ms. Shani. because I've seen you there, and you do know our board has concerns about this. Our board has tried to explore and say, what can we do to basically be able to get into the land use authority? And the answer is, unfortunately, not much. Our act is defined by the legislature, and we would get a lot of oppositions from cities if we basically be able to, or given a veto on such projects. But we will continue to comment. We will continue to oppose these kind of projects. Again, I'm not familiar with the San Jose Boston Properties project that you're talking about, but I can guarantee you, you will see comments from us on the EIR.
All right, great. All right, moving on to our next question here. This is from Eileen McLaughlin again. She brings us back to the Sunnyvale project. Since the Sunnyvale project was approved, sea level rise expectations have increased. Can the project be updated by these studies?
The answer is, I don't know if they're currently looking at the plan of what the planning studies look like for the project or what can be done, but I'll make sure that when we have the community meeting, that is one of the questions that we addressed, so we can talk about how did we address the impact would mean on the project.
All right, great, thank you. And just as a reminder to everyone, feel free to ask your questions verbally by raising your hand. Go ahead and submit through the Q&A portal. And for those about 13 people on Facebook Live, also feel free to make a comment on Facebook, and I will relay that to Rick and the chair. All right, moving on to our next question here. Shani asked, I did not fully understand. Can you please explain what are the current risks to Alviso and what should and can be done about it? I'm thinking this is about climate change from earlier.
That's about the climate change from earlier. What she's probably referring to is our Lower Guadalupe project, and I'm not sure what the street is, 880. I'm actually trying to look it up as I'm talking to you. But one of the things is that we're doing is we're actually planning for a community meeting that will be addressing this very issue, to talk to the folks that are in the community. And Albert, I'm not sure if you're working on that, but I have Mr. Potter on the line who oversees that community meeting. Mike, could you give us October 1st. Do you know the stretch of where that Lower Guadalupe goes from?
I-880 to Tasman, but the project scope may also stretch to Gold Avenue in Alviso, yeah, depending on the alternatives that are most feasible.
Yeah. So going back to Ms. Shani Kleinhaus's question, the current risks. So the current risks are those people, the folks that are those residents, are back in the floodplain. Unfortunately, the operations and maintenance, or the maintenance of the project, was not done. As a result of the project not being done, the people that were removed from the floodplain are back in the floodplain. So what can be done about it? And that's one of the part of the conversations that we're going to have. We basically built a channel. We're responsible for protecting those folks and making sure that we're maintaining the channel. So we will be addressing this. And so what will be done, I'm not sure exactly what the fix is going to be, but there will be a fix and we will have to deal with it. And this is the thing, and this is why I point to that project, is we shouldn't have that occur anywhere in this community again. We should not build a project and not be able to maintain it because we don't have the dollars to do so. That's partially what Measure S is about. Let's take care of the business of doing the business what we do. Let's not just build them and walk away. Let's build them and maintain them.
All right, so I think I have Shani just mention a comment about someone reaching out to her for that meeting. So Shani, we have your email address and we will send a notice over your way.
Coming soon.
All right, so right now we're looking clear on the questions in Q&A portal. Again, I invite folks to feel free to ask any questions. This is a great opportunity to really talk to our chair and chief executive officer for Valley Water. Looks like we have a question from Ronald. When planning for sea level rise, what do you assume to be the amount of actual rise?
Oh, that's a very technical question. I don't have that exact answer to. One of the things is, and I'm going to try to answer this generally because I was involved with it as we were talking and working with the Corps of Engineers as it related to the South Bay Shoreline project. And so what they did is actually they added on, it was a few feet to the project to account for sea level rise. So, but I believe the assumptions are different, but I don't have a technical answer. I think that would be able to address you exactly as you'd want to. So what I'll do is, Mr. Horry, if you can go ahead again and send me an email to ceo@valleywater.org. What I'll do is I'll have one of our engineers be able to give you a call and follow up with you and give you an exact answer to that question of what they do in terms of the planning.
All right, great, thank you. We have some additional questions here in our Q&A portal. So Ram asks a question: Are any new storage and are any new storage reservoirs being planned to meet the needs of the growing population in the Bay Area? I think this might be a Pacheco question.
Right. So I think maybe we planted Ram or something because he's asking questions which are perfect. So the answer is yes. We are planning new reservoirs. If you go to valleywater.org, you'll see a reservoir that's called Pacheco. Basically, we are the we're working on a joint effort with some other agencies to move it forward. We went to the state, it was 2018, I believe it was, late 2018, and we're able to obtain $485 million in Proposition 1 funding. So currently we're studying the needs of Pacheco in order to build Pacheco. Also included in Measure S are some dollars for portions of the studies and some of the support for Pacheco as well. So that's just one of the ones that we're planning in the Bay Area. We're also looking at other additional storage projects, not only underground storage, basically outside of the Bay Area. And what we can do, we'll be going back to the board probably in November 10th, I believe it is, to talk about some of the storage options. There's also a non-Bay Area project called Sites that we're looking at, and a potential investment in sites and see about the governance of sites and how we'll be able to work with that. You also have the newest project in the Bay Area that was built, Los Vaqueros. And Los Vaqueros, we're currently in negotiations and talking with them about how to basically wheel water, or basically be able to get water from Los Vaqueros over to Valley Water. So some of the things that we're doing is not only looking at new storage projects, but also looking at some investment in existing projects, or investing in groundwater. And then, as I mentioned, in Measure S, it also enables us to have the ability to look at basically stormwater runoff and stormwater capture in the future. But that's something that we will be able to do, hopefully, if it's successful in front of the voters.
All right, great, thank you. All right, move on to our next question here. Just doing my little scan of the different sites here. Again, feel free to ask your questions verbally too as well. Eileen McLaughlin asks, the USGS, which I assume is the United States Geological Service, recently published a study of the California coastline, including the Bay Area, for potential impacts of rising groundwater in shallow aquifers as a result of sea level rise. Will the district consider this impact on evaluation of flooding, as rising groundwater will produce more frequent localized surface flooding?
The answer is yes. I know that was actually being looked at in the shoreline area. In terms of rising groundwater, I know that Rochelle Blank was a part of that conversation, and I remember having a conversation about that. I don't know if it was taken into account because of the USGS study, but I do know that was taken into account.
All right. And for those who are wondering, let's see here, if just for your reference, the Guadalupe River project meeting, the Zoom link will be shared inside the answered Q&A column, but you can also visit Valley Water to visit the Guadalupe River IAEA to Tasman project website, and you'll see information on the upcoming meeting as well. Let's see here, any other questions from Facebook Live and the Q&A portal I don't see right now? Again, I invite folks to raise their hand and submit questions.
Yeah. And one of the things I did want to talk about is we're waiting for folks going to talk about submit questions is the last time we did this, we were right on the edges of the wildfires, and we still do have some wildfires that are still going. Some of the folks had asked about, what about Anderson as it relates to the wildfire? People said, I've often seen helicopters go and dip the buckets in Anderson and be able to use those for the wildfires. Is there going to be enough water in Anderson to basically provide support for wildfires in the area? And the answer is yes. Even though we are going to be having Anderson drawn down to what's called dead pool, there will still be enough water in Anderson, water and mud, for firefighters to basically be able to address that. Another question that we've often got is power outages. Is Valley Water prepared for power outages? One of the things that I don't think anyone ever thought they were going to see again was rolling power outages that we just saw a few weeks ago. This is, where we have COVID, we have wildfires, we have rolling power outages. The answer again is yes. One of the things that we do have is we do have the ability to basically operate. We have generators on our plants. One of the things that we're looking at right now, we will be bringing back to the board of directors, is we've started to look at basically a power supply master plan, just to make sure that we have the ability to continue to operate. Yes, we do believe we have enough right now, but we want to basically be able to ensure that we are prepared to serve the public. The public wants to know that we've provided that we have the security in our systems to provide for you. So I can tell you, throughout wildfires, throughout regardless of power outages, Valley Water is prepared, will continue to be prepared, and emergency operations is something that we take very seriously.
All right, and then just Ron also just sends in our chat box. Just thank you very much for your answers. We're also looking good on questions on the Q&A portal and on Facebook, and also the raise hands.
All right. Well, I do want to see some folks that are peeling off, and I do want to thank everybody for doing this. We're going to be doing this 5 more times in 5 different communities and talking to the local communities efforts. If you want to come on and hear from another community, I encourage you to come on and to join us and to talk and be able to ask questions of me or the board members from the different areas. I think one of the things that I want everyone to know is that we are local residents too. We live here. We pay the same taxes that we're asking folks to pay. My family will be voting yes, because I believe in what the needs are. I believe in making sure we have environmental justice, to make sure that we have projects that provide for the protections of everyone. And I want my son to basically be able to live in a valley that does not have risks or threats to this water supply, to flood protection, or to the environment, or to the environmental degradation. I'm telling you, those are things that are important to me personally. So I couldn't be better positioned in working for an organization like Valley Water, where I can basically be able to lead things that are important to me. So I do want to thank everybody for coming. And the one thing, and I mentioned it early, and I think I'll just ask the director a question. She was, like I said, she was a longtime employee. So it's always good to have leaders that understand, that work their way from the ground up, work their way to being a chief, and then ultimately onto our board of directors. And that's Chair Hsueh. She's someone that, you know, has all those credentials and all those backgrounds. So it's just, maybe you can tell the folks that are there, what was your favorite Valley Water project that you worked on?
Wow. Thank you, Rick. That's a tough question to answer, because there are just so many projects. Either I personally involved or see other staff completing this great project. And my background as a civil engineer, usually I will probably jump to the largest and most expensive and most technically challenging project. However, I would say that there's this smaller project, but then maybe the community can have more direct connect to it and then actually know about it. I would mention this Blackberry Farm restoration project. Valley Water and City of Cupertino cooperated. I know lots of people utilize that site for relaxation. This West Valley College, their facade 3-4 years ago, it was completely long, and then Valley Water and West Valley College cooperated and then converted that huge lawn area into drought tolerant vegetation, and the site now looks wonderful. The other project in Sunnyvale, that this Wolf Road recycle water project, I like that project because, first of all, it's a multi-agency cooperation, City of Sunnyvale, Valley Water, and then it's a private, it's a private and public agency cooperation. There's Cal Water as the investor-owned utility. There's Apple Computers that participated, because the recycled water goes directly into Apple's spaceship campus site. And also that it's provided future opportunity for recycled water to be utilized in the adjacent area. So those are the kind of project that I think many of you may personally encountered and actually use it for enjoyment.
All right. Thank you, Director Hsueh. Well, I want to thank everyone. We're coming to the bottom of the hour here. And I do want to thank everyone for joining us tonight and for tonight's meet and greet. And I know we've gotten through a lot of the questions that we can. If you could think of other questions that you want to have asked that weren't asked, you could go ahead and email me at ceo@valleywater.org, or you can join one of our future CEO events. Next one's going to be on September 30th at 5:30 p.m. I'm going to turn over the final closing to our chair of our board of directors to see if she wants to go ahead and wrap us up.
Rick?
Quick
Yes.
moment. We have a special guest in our audience. We have Assembly Member Evan Lowe, who just joined us on Zoom. He says hello in the chat.
So Mr. Lowe, thank you for joining us. How you can help us to be successful is continue to battle for us in the legislature, just like you've been doing. Evan Lowe has been a wonderful friend to Valley Water, and I appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lowe, for joining us. And as Rick said, that we will be doing this for, I think, another 5 times, at least this round. You can always join these other districts meeting, and we'll continue this effort and hope to be able to meet with all of you in person and have a direct conversation on the things that you're concerned about and the services that we can provide to you. So thank you very much for taking the time on the Friday evening.
Thank you, and thank you to the staff. I know the staff have other things I'm sure they'd like to be doing at 5:30 on a Friday evening, but I want to thank the staff. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you to the staff. Thank you, Chair Hsueh. Thank you, Assembly Member, for joining us. Thank you to all of the attendees for joining us on a 5:30 on a Friday evening. Truly appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.